All righty.
Got the hat, and I've got the mug and everything. So
that's the Ohio Political News mug shot, and you got your hat there too. You can't beat that. How you doing,
I got my mug, and it's actually feeling very icy in my office, so I put this hat on in support of our office. Keeping the peace.
A little bit on the chilly side. Okay, so tonight we're going to be having our special guest, Casey Putsch. Gosh, I can't say it. What is it? It's Putsch?
I think it is Putsch, yeah.
Putsch, okay. So Casey's going to be joining. He has not connected yet on Zoom, which has got me a little concerned. So, and I don't have a phone number to get to him. I had to work through a third party, some type of marketing company. They arranged the whole thing, but they assured me earlier today that he was all set for it. I talked to them multiple times through text messages and stuff. So they're supposed to be, I'm assuming that he is just running behind. I hope so. You see, that's the problem. And I'm going to tell you guys something. That is why I knew it. Well, I worked through you. I told you we wanted to start at 7 o'clock. I don't see him yet. And if there is a problem with him connecting through the link for some reason, I can't get a hold of him and talk to him. All right.
And he can't get a hold of you.
And he can't get a hold of me either. So it's...
well, actually, so Joe, just sorry to interject, but make sure that your email is up, just in case, because if that's the only way that Casey Putsch knows how to get a hold of you, then make sure you keep that up, because, like you're right, these sort of virtual connections can be a little bit difficult sometimes if he runs into an issue. The only way he knows how to get a hold of you to correct and get a valid link is through email. So in the meantime, we'll make a little small talk and buy some time for Casey Putsch to come on and join us.
All right. All right. Now, small talk is fine as long as it's something interesting. So let's talk about... actually, I'm going to give him a call. I do have a number here to that marketing person. I think I'm going to call them right now. And I know we got people in the chat. So maybe just hang in there.
Yeah, bring up the chat. If they've got any questions, we'll try to address the questions.
Yeah, maybe a few questions.
Yeah,
we can throw a few questions up there, Kent, and these guys can handle it. I'm going to make a quick phone call here. I'll let you guys
Joe, if you want to,
for a minute.
If you want to mute your microphone, and Brian and I will conduct a little conversation here. I will also open up Rumble. So we're going to open up the Rumble channel and Facebook Live if you are watching this live, as we try to work through connection with Casey Putsch. If anything strikes your fancy, anything's interesting to you, put it in the chat, and Brian and I will chat about it.
All right, hang on a second. Hang on a minute. I got George Satari joining. George!
We have Jonathan, I've got a question for you. I got a text message. Someone was asking me if Donald Trump made the statement that there will be no property taxes for anybody in the United States. I haven't heard that at all. Have you?
No, I've heard it, but I have no confirmation of it. But It's like a lot of those things. It seems like any given minute you pick up social media and skim through, somebody has attributed some outlandish comment to Donald Trump. I think about half of the time it's meant to entice MAGA, and the other half of the time it's meant to enrage the extremist communist far left. So I don't know what to make of it. Brian, how are you doing with signatures on the property tax petition? Very, very well.
I've been asked that 2 or 3 times a day for, I don't know, the last couple of weeks. And my response is this. Since Senator Jerry Serino declared war on we the people and told all of the politicians in Lake County not to sign the petition and not to vote for it if it gets on the ballot, and telling 100 people not to sign the petition, that was a declaration of war by Serino. So now that we're at war with the legislators, when you're at war, you never give the enemy any intel. So I am keeping that close to the vest. I'm very happy. I'm going to, I'll use this form to ask any and all of our circulators that may be watching us to send in all of your signatures, all the petitions that you have, even if they only have one signature per petition. We'd like to get everything in by January 31st so that we can see where we're at. And then we will start letting people know how we're doing so that everybody won't be asking that question. It'll be very obvious to them because we're going to probably post it on the Facebook pages. So I'm keeping that close to my vest, but I'm very happy with the results so far.
So I take that to mean that you've got approximately 3.5 million signatures, right?
Give or take. You may be just a tad high, but it's very close.
Beautiful. Loving it. And so there was a comment that came up, something about Casey. Who's behind the scenes here? We've got Kent. Kent, could you bring that back up? Casey, I don't know what that insignia is. Sign the petition to end property tax live on video. Oh.
Yeah, that'd be outstanding. Yeah, I really would like to ask Casey of in the property tax amendment where he says abolish all property taxes. I'm assuming that abolishment for all residential and commercial properties also. But I was asked to confirm that, by a listener. So when we see him, we'll have to ask him that question if it's for residential as well as commercial property. But Jonathan, let me ask you another question, if I can, Jonathan. Do you think it's the role of government to be in the business of property valuation? Is that a role of government?
No, they're terrible at valuation of anything. I mean, these are the people that buy the $600,000 toilets and the $700 hammers. And, they have no clue or concept. I've been saying it since before I was even political. I was at least aware that our government, generally speaking, are really, really bad at determining value for things. I mean, I've brought it up a few times recently because to me, it's a representative example. It's live and it's current. But just recently in my county, we went through this rubber stamp approval process for a $400,000 office renovation for one of our county employees. And then we got into a conversation about one of the divisions in my county. There's one division that, according to what I'm able to tell, should have 8 to 10 employees, but they have 19, and all 19 employees get overtime. And on top of that, they seem to have an array of contracts as if they're not fully staffed. And who knows? It's like their budget has gone from $700,000 to like $2.3 million, and nobody really can explain why. So these same people that just seem to just think that money grows on trees are supposed to somehow have any clue whatsoever on how to value something. But Brian, there's a more important question on any given day. How is it possible that we have government that will artificially raise the value of something and then attach a tax to that, but that never comes down, and we're paying taxes on unappreciated or unrealized gains. So this concept that something shows up and somebody just with wave of a magic wand tells you that your $100,000 house is now worth $200,000 and you're supposed to pay more taxes at the $200,000 rate. You didn't sell anything. You didn't realize $200,000. You have to take their word at that valuation. Those very same people that misspend and misappropriate funds like it's like they're gumballs.
That's 100%, Jonathan. We would not accept paying taxes on our stock portfolio at the end of the year. So if there's unrealized gains in our stock portfolio and they want us to pay tax on that unrealized gains, I think people would start to squawk. So why would we do it for our home?
Yeah,
hey guys,
absolutely.
let me just
pause. And there was a question
jump
there
in
about,
here a minute. Hang on a second.
Yep.
Let me just jump in here a second. So,
of course,
we're going to be having our guest Casey Putsch.
Putsch.
Like Butch, but Putsch. Okay, I gotta remember it. Now, so they said he was in the he was trying to get in the waiting room, but he's not in the waiting room. So I don't know what's going on here. George, you out there? You were in the waiting room. You didn't have any trouble connecting, right?
No, I was in the waiting room for like 5 seconds, if that.
Yeah, because I saw you pop up right away, so I connected you. I got a feeling he's in a different waiting room. So we will have him on here real soon, just as soon as he connects. But at least, we're making progress here. He's trying to connect. So we will have him on here real soon, and that'll be good.
Can I ask Jonathan another question there?
Maybe he's in the waiting room to get a vaccine. All right, never mind.
Maybe he's in the waiting room. Yeah, there's a doctor in there with a big syringe. A big syringe. All right. So do we have any good comments? Hit us with a comment, Kent. Hit us with a good one. So give us something to bounce off. Let's see what this is from. Disney Wonk. But an NGO is not a government agency. Why can't we go after them for fraud here in Ohio? Now, they must be having some kind of a conversation going on.
Why don't the elected officials, be it the attorney general or the state auditor, why don't they do their job? Why don't they go after that? I don't understand. They say, well, that's not really their role. I mean, if this thing has been going on for longer than a year, I think we may need to replace some of the state officials for incompetence.
Yes, please. But
wait a second. Oh,
do we have Casey Putsch on?
Yes, sir.
I think we do. Unless it's an imposter. Is this really you? We got to make sure it's really Casey.
Go.
It's Casey.
Check ID.
Pooch.
Test me.
Yes.
Test me.
Is that you, Pooch? Am I saying that correct?
I pronounce it Putsch, like put your money where your mouth is.
Putsch.
Put your money.
Putsch. Put your money where your mouth is. How you doing tonight? All right, very good.
Guys.
Good to see you there. Glad you can make it. Glad you could drop in. Yeah, the show would not be the same without you, just to let you know. All right.
Yeah.
All right. So let me do a quick introduction here. We'll get to talking about your candidacy for governor, and then anybody in the chat that has some questions, and us will be trying to go through it all. Okay, Casey Putsch is a Republican candidate running for Ohio governor, positioning yourself as America First advocate. Okay, we like that here. You're born and raised in Tiffin. You're an alumni of Ohio State University, automotive entrepreneur. Founded the Genius Garage Educational Program, a charity that teaches young adults practical engineering through building cars and team racing. Now, you invented the 104 mile per hour Omega car, 104 miles per gallon. And you have a YouTube channel that's got 350,000 subscribers to it, which kind of gets me a little envious right there. 350,000, that shouldn't be allowed. And you're positioning yourself as a Republican alternative to Vivek Ramaswamy, who you say is a rhino and a tech billionaire. How you doing tonight?
I'm well. Thanks for having me. Yeah, that's an awesome introduction. I appreciate it. Certainly, this is not something that was on my life bingo card, but over the last 5 years or so, seeing things happening with culture, political radicalization, and frankly, just not being happy with what I've seen over the years of leadership, and just not seeing the opportunity for everybody's future. Despite of all the work I think I've done for the betterment of the future for communities, industries, and education, I just couldn't take it anymore. So I took a big leap of faith, and here I am running as a Republican, always been one, and of course the primary against Vivek.
Okay, so the big primary will be coming up in May, and I think Heather Hill is in there also, and you. And Vivek. So we're going to have a decent primary. There'll be three of you going at each other like that. So let me ask you a couple quick questions, and then I'd really like to dive into property taxes right off the bat, if that's okay.
Sure.
But for a couple of quick questions, how do you position yourself different from Ramaswamy give us some, what it is that you didn't like about Ramaswamy. You said he's a rhino and everything, and how you're positioning yourself different, just so we can get the compare and contrast a little bit here.
Well, sure. I could probably spend a whole night talking about things I don't like, but I'll just give you a couple bullet points, and then showing me this contrast and bringing it out. It bothers me that this is a person that didn't go to school in Ohio for his higher education. He went to Harvard and Yale, had a scholarship paid by George Soros money. Big red flag to me. He has no businesses in Ohio. Despite his massive wealth, he's done no philanthropy in Ohio. And this is a guy that doesn't really spend any time in Ohio. So it bothers me deeply that this is a person that has so much backing from the establishment early on. I pour some contrast to that. My family, growing up in Tiffin, our business was a small golf course. So we worked incredibly hard, 6 o'clock in the morning and 10 o'clock at night. As a small child, being part of the family business. And that relates to everything from maintaining diesel mowers and golf carts to looking after 120 acres, all the agronomy. And of course, we're around farmers. So I was out in the rural area, being around, seeing that, working with the public and building and creating and minding the business. So you have to learn to be responsible for yourselves and a part of a community. And just by virtue of the tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, God only knows how many people I was exposed to all the years growing up, you get to know the people. We had loads of blue collar people that golf at the golf course in a small town, of course, white collar too. But they talk, they come out, they tell stories. And as a small kid, I had a lot of World War II vets. So you get to know the people. And so I was exposed to the changes over the years of society, when you started to see manufacturing going away in the late 80s and early 90s and how that impacts a small town, up into when we had the so-called financial crisis of 2009 because of fiscal irresponsibility, I think, in Washington and lending, and how that hurts a small town. But, and actually I was born on the west side of Cleveland, more like Rocky River area, so we moved there when I was about 3 into Tiffin.
But, okay. Well, I'm out in the Cleveland area. We're kind of spread out a little bit. I got a few other guys on Zoom that are co-hosts and stuff like that. So we're actually in different counties.
Sure.
Can we dive into the property tax?
Yeah, let's
dive into it. It's a hot issue right now.
I know it's something.
Going. Yeah, it's something that is really like number 1 or number 2 on your campaign list. So if I'm reading it correctly, you're saying, because you have some kind of an idea of how to fund the taxes if they were abolished. And, we're going to do everything we can to make sure they get abolished. We're all 100% behind that on this podcast. But
sure.
I think you were saying something in your platform where if you are getting any money, rental income, any kind of income, it's a business of some sort, then they'd be paying a service fee. But anybody who has a home that is their home, there would be no service fee, and of course, no property taxes at all. Is that right, or something? Am I wrong?
Well, you have another thing on there. The other thing, forgive me, I didn't go quick enough for early on in terms of contrast to Vivek. And frankly, I hope you'll forgive me just a little bit. It is Sunday evening, and we had our first big campaign rally yesterday, which is amazing. So it's the evening. But anyway, relating to property taxes, the biggest key important thing there is by getting rid of that on private homes for private individuals, one, you're looking after the seniors. Because if you're on a fixed income and property taxes, there's basically no control over. I don't want to see senior people losing their homes. That's just ridiculous and unfair. But the biggest thing relating to property tax and getting rid of them for the private individuals on homes is it puts power back to the people. It effectively forces fiscal responsibility for the government, because then for any new taxes or anything else to hypothetically replace what is missing, you give the power of the people to where they're going to have to vote on it. With regard to how much was brought in, about 3 to 68% of that goes to schools. But some of the difficulties there was a ruling that it's effectively unconstitutional for the Ohio Constitution for the majority of school funding to come from taxes. That's a bit of an issue because there's some disparity with how much taxes could be in districts and such, which really doesn't seem right. With regard to new funding and where that can come from, there's a load of questions or a load of different places to look at, not the least of which some of them is like, where's the money going from all these casinos? Where's the money going from marijuana and such? There's numerous avenues of funding that I see that can be directed and looked after. So the thing about right now is in having an incredible team, and hopefully you saw our Lieutenant Governor pick of Kim Georgeton, who's fantastic. In diving into the depths of this to fund it and make it work, you start seeing it, and they're deep rabbit holes. But one other point I want to make is we're seeing the fraud in Minnesota relating to the Somali daycare thing to the tunes of billions of dollars. And originally I was hearing numbers in the area of 9 billion, and then numbers that are more in the area of 18 billion. Ohio has the potential to be very similar to that. And I bring that up because just the sheer level of fraud and just waste and abuse in the government, that alone can pay for the schools. So if we circle back to the property tax for individuals, private people and their homes, the government's already so insanely wasteful. If it just wasn't insanely wasteful and had somebody rock solid with the right team looking getting rid of waste, fraud, and abuse, you wouldn't need it.
Yeah, if they could start doging Ohio. Yeah, you're right. If they could start doging Ohio the way they should. And we had a guy on a state rep, Mike DeVilla, who said the Medicaid fraud is probably, he estimates, about $4 billion in Ohio. That's a lot. That's a lot of money. Yes. So anyhow, let me go around the horn here a little bit, because I know that this guy here is big on the property taxes as well, and I'm sure you got a question.
Brian.
Hello, Casey. Nice to see you.
Howdy, sir. Good to see you too.
Thank you so much for joining us. I just want to make sure that completely understand. You say the elimination for property taxes for residential property, but not for commercial. Am I understanding that correctly?
Well, my first and foremost big interest is private, of course. The people, the private homes. As an example, my grandparents, they meant a lot to me. Okay. Actually, that's my grandfather's folded flag over here from World War II. And I looked after them for the last number of years of their lives. So it was very keen in looking after the seniors and property tax. And that goes further than that. That's helpful for everybody younger. But that's the first and foremost thing that I'm focused on, is making sure that we keep seniors in their homes. And it bothers me to no end that you can work your entire life to pay off your home. And then the government can just abuse, inflation, fraud, everything like that. And if you're on a fixed income, you get to the point where they'll take your home. That's not fair. How can you work your whole life for something and then have to rent it from the government through tax just because they're so wasteful? So to answer your question, initially right now, my biggest focus is on private homes.
Yeah. Is there any, do you think there's going to be a huge pushback from the legislator? I mean, as governor, you can have that stance, but you're going to have to get the legislators to buy into that. And one of the issues that we've had, as they say, no carve-outs, for seniors, which really bothered us. So we agree with your stance. It's just that the realization that you may have some huge pushback unless you've got the legislative branch to help you out and actually, pass the laws.
Indeed. Well, and part of that is just having the right team where you can dig deep and making the right movements with regard to, shall we say, waste in other places. Because if you're making big waves in the right directions elsewhere and you have the right team creating a detailed plan to be able to do this, and I think you well know it, sir. But when you have that, it makes it easier. Do I expect pushback from the government? Yes, it's the government. If they were doing everything right, and I was so confident, I wouldn't be here. So it's simply looking after people. In fact, the root of everything I'm doing is, frankly, power back to the people so that they can believe they can build a community, a tomorrow, a family, and have some confidence in it and build a future.
Okay, very good. All right, so what we're going to do is I'm going to go around the horn real quick. You guys can ask him a question. We'll try to take some stuff from the chat, but and then we'll move on. I want to get through a lot of different issues here, like H1B visas, data centers. We'll talk more about that daycare fraud, what's going on, and stuff like that too. So let me get to Jonathan here. Do you have anything you want to ask real quick?
Well, actually, I've got several questions that I've written out, but there was a question. Ken, can you bring up that question from Darby Bodie again about ESL? There we go. What do you mean when you say funding should promote equity in public education? What do you know about social and emotional learning? And is it helpful in creating educated students? Let's start with that one.
Forgive me. It just went away. The beginning, it said, what did I mean when I was saying equity in public education?
I'm assuming that's directed at you.
Yeah.
Well, it could be. Wait a minute. It could be, or it could be they're talking back and forth in the chat. But I think it's directed at you. But let's just do this. What is your thoughts then on all this diversity, equity, and inclusion (DEI) going on in the public schools?
DEI to me is an acronym for "didn't earn it." I don't like what I see virtually with all those acronyms of what's going on, because it ends up inherently being unfair somewhere. And it is that, shall we say, political activists are looking for new ways to find power rather than actually looking at any root cause. I'm frankly tired of the era where we've dealt with all those things. So that can stay in the past. Now it's simply looking at where the root is with education. My belief is that the difficulty is coming from the government and standards with schools, because we keep lowering standards. Mm-hmm. But the thing that bothers me so greatly here, and this is one of the, and I'm going to frankly stop talking about Vivek as much, because I think the public has his number. if I may quote my grandmother's term, he wants to put the pressure on the teachers. He wants people to go to school longer, like all year long, later in hours, and the pressure on the educators. Well, first of all, our teachers are doing an incredible job, and it's a difficult job, and it's underappreciated. How do I know that? I've been mentoring college students for the last 11 years, unpaid, helping them get unbelievable jobs, and it's been very difficult. And I have certainly stymied my own career by doing that. So I want to look after them, because if we start putting all the pressure on them when the government standards are just being lowered and terrible, you're going to lose all the good teachers. You're going to push them all out. So frankly, it has to do with the students, the standards being lowered because of the government and making it easier on the government. And effectively by doing that, we're creating an educational system that, well, let me put it this way. One of the, probably the truest thing about government is they're always going to want more money and more power, and they're always going to want to grow. But last time I checked, none of those things really solve any problems. They just create new ones. And it's funny because with elected officials, it seems the one rule of thumb is they always just want to get reelected, and they're going to do whatever it takes to do that. I just want to solve the root of the problems we have so we have a better tomorrow and less waste. So long story short, it's the standards being lowered that don't work. We can't be putting pressure on the teachers like Vivek wants. And what we're talking with regard to DEI and all that stuff in the past, we need to leave that in the past and just go back to schools. And just for a little fun, can we bring shop class back and some trades and home ec and things that help people actually be functioning members of society? That would be nice too.
Yeah, that would be nice. But I got a feeling that if you bring back shop class, it's got to be racist in some capacity. It's got to be. Everything is racist these days. All right, George.
I don't think so.
I'll come back to all you guys here. I just want to get George in real fast. George, do you have a question for Casey? George is on the phone.
Yeah, I have several questions. I don't understand how we can say teachers are doing a fantastic job when we look at the...
Can we get George to start over? We can't hear him.
Yeah, you got a bad
just barely
or
hear
something.
him.
Try it again, George.
All right. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Better. Okay. Yeah, I'm concerned that I don't know if the teachers are doing a good job. I think it's built into the system for them not to do a good job. There's a lot of good teachers, but when 30% approximately of students read at grade level, no math at grade level, I don't think that's very good results. So I don't know why we would say that we don't need to put pressure on the teachers. Maybe we need to put pressure on the administrators and the school boards because they're so focused on teaching nonsense they've gotten away from reading, writing, arithmetic, and they've gotten into everything else. So I don't think when I went to school that the teachers had a lot of pressure to teach reading, writing, arithmetic, because it's relatively easy. Of course, when you get into maybe more advanced math or algebra or engineering, but I don't know why when people go to college, they need tons of remedial education in reading and writing and arithmetic, because they really got a high school diploma that really isn't worth too much. So maybe I agree there should be pressure on not necessarily the teachers, but on the administrators and the school boards to clean up. Well, it's actually the state of Ohio function to clean up the curriculum into something more streamlined and more going back to the good old days of reading, writing, and arithmetic.
Well, I appreciate bringing that up. You hit on a lot of details there. One point that you made was in terms of not putting pressure on the teachers early on, but you said, I think it's built into the system. And I agree with you on that. And I think the way to understand that is simply from the government level at the top and what's being put into it. Another aspect of that, which I think we saw, especially during the Biden years, that scared a lot of people and created a lot of mess, was transparency. Not having transparency with curriculums and what's being taught, of course, in public education. And also concern with that in parallel of teachers in some ways having power to not have to answer to parents, because ultimately it's the parents that are the best guide and the guardians of their students. So there's some other small details there. But frankly, I don't, if the teachers are in a bad system where we're lowering standards and we're not setting them up to be able to succeed, it's crazy to expect them to be able to succeed. So frankly, I agree with you in so many ways. I just think it's, as you mentioned, it's built into the system, and I think that happens at the government level.
Right, but it starts with the legislature. They fundamentally need to do something. We just opened the NEOCA, which was the Northeast Ohio Classical Academy. Their foundational baseline is the Hillsdale Barney Charter School. That's what the state of Ohio needs to force the schools to teach, not everything else like social emotional learning and these pronouns and gay stuff and DEI and everything else. So it's really a function of legislature. So as the governor in a proposal would need to propose to the legislature to scrap the curriculum that exists and come up with the Barney Charter School as developed by Hillsdale College as the standard in all the classrooms from K through 12 if we have public education.
Certainly. Well, we need the correct basics there for everybody to be able to do it well. There's a lot going on that isn't necessary or gets us from our eye on the ball, because ultimately education isn't the end-all be-all only thing for young people. It's something for them to grow as individuals, learn, and ultimately be functioning members of society. So back to basics that way, but from the government, have to be able to set our teachers up for success.
Casey, let's knock off two topics here back to back if we could. So just one would be the H-1B visas, if you want to give a little thought on that, and also data centers in Ohio. Okay.
Certainly. Well, H-1Bs, that is a federal level thing and what it's coming in. So with regard to the state level, you're not simply just going to be able to wave a magic wand and make them go away. But in terms of my view on them, I don't like them. When politicians or anybody in a position of power say that we don't have smart enough people here, they are lying to you, period. Or they don't get it. And neither of those two things are good. My personal problem with H-1Bs and why, frankly, I'm against them is because I know we have smart enough people here. I've been mentoring young engineers for the last decade plus. I've helped them get jobs everywhere from Lockheed Martin to Tesla, GM, Marathon, all the best places in the world, just by doing What I don't think college does is practical skills, practical engineering and all. And I say that because I know, and I will take it on both a little bit of a personal level as well as professional, of course, with my work. When I hear that, say that we don't have bright enough people here. I mean, Orville and Wilbur Wright were bicycle mechanics, and they figured out how to do powered flight and wind tunnel building and such way back when. So that's a lie. But the problem with H-1Bs is it's a way for big corporations to profit massively because they can import cheap labor, largely from India, about 70%, the rest mostly from China. And what you do is you displace American and Ohioan workers. So not only do corporations have a higher profit margin because they hire cheaper people from out of the country, from dissimilar cultures, you create a lot of competition for our young people that have gone to school, they've fought hard, they've worked hard, they've gotten good grades, and they want a job, and suddenly there's massive competition. That's not fair. And not only that, but because the corporations can pay these foreign labor less money, well, guess what? If our Ohioans and our Americans can even get a job, because there's going to be less of them, they're not going to get paid as much.
Yeah, I hear a lot of that with the generation. Let's see, what generation are we at? Z. The Generation Zers. They've complained a lot. We've talked to a few of them where they went to engineering school, Dayton or somewhere. Got a great engineering degree, but these jobs are being taken by these H-1B. It's coming in from India or wherever, and the claim that they're so much smarter is BS. Okay,
no,
I mean, if it's BS, I'm going to say it's BS. That is BS. Okay, they're not anywhere in line with the education that these kids had to go through in these engineering classes. But it is, for them, for a business owner or something, they can pay a lot less and make a bigger profit.
Yeah.
Hey, what about?
I say.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I say it's tongue-in-cheek, if these Indian students were so much smarter, then why can't India produce a cool sports car?
yeah. They run. Yeah, I got you. Okay, what about data centers? What's up with that? What's your thought on that? And then I'll go around the horn real quick.
Oh, that's a huge problem. Actually, it's terrifying. I did a YouTube video where I flew a helicopter over it and got pretty mad about it when I looked at the details. So what is it about them? Well, there's one going in right by my house, between my house and my shop, and there's a couple hundred of them going in Ohio. These things have giant tax abatements, 10, 15 years not paying tax. Heck, that's probably longer than the value they have to society for that useful. So that's odd. The next problem is they sap massive quantities of electricity. That of a small town in many circumstances. So what is it going to do? It's going to hike our electricity bills sky high. In layman's terms, we're subsidizing the cost of all the electricity for these things being slipped in. There are environmental concerns, serious ones. Why is Ohio good for those? We've got Lake Erie, we've got the Ohio River, we've got all our beautiful rivers and our aquifers, which everybody forgets about. And they need massive quantities of fresh water for cooling. So if you think about the big water towers you see out around cities and such, even some of these relatively smaller ones might require the equivalent of 2 of those water towers a day to cool. So there's one, they compute, but the other thing they do primarily, they're a giant heater. That heater goes into the water, that heater goes into the earth, and there's numerous other things about them. So what does it do actually for a community? Well, you've got a small amount of maintenance jobs. But let's say you only have maybe 100. That's probably on the high side. Let's say you got 100 maintenance jobs full time, and they're paying them $85,000 a year. Well, unless it's too late on a Sunday, that's about $8.5 million, I think, a year before taxes that will go back into a community. But these things are multi-billion-dollar projects that we're subsidizing the cost of electricity. They're hurting the environment, and we're not getting taxes on them because they have giant abatements. That is a net loss to the state. That's a net loss to the people, with serious concerns that are reversible. Not to mention that, but they've basically been slipped in under the cover of night with massive NDA forms and such, and we're all now just finding out about them because clearly it wasn't going to be good. And it appears the reason why they're coming in here is because Ohio has relatively dense energy that's cost effective, and we have lots of places for cooling. So they're going to come in here and muscle out our farmland. In the case of Pittsburgh, outside of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Now, I know it's another state, but it's a good example. There was a beautiful racing track called Pitt Race, road racing track, permanent buildings. It was a centerpiece for the Vintage Grand Prix, which raised loads of money for charities for decades. Well, it got muscled out and bought out, kind of usurped, because the structure for a data center. So you lose a major cultural heritage site. Now, and I'll mention old Vivek here again. This bothered me to no end. When he's running, you can see clips of him say, well, I think Ohio and the Ohio River Valley can be the next Silicon Valley. And when he was saying that in the past, I thought, that are you joking? I mean, we got Cincinnati down there. It's nice, but we don't have the infrastructure for all that. That's not going to happen. That's silly. But then I came to realize with all these data centers, that's just BS political code for I'm here to facilitate it and slip it in for all you Ohio normies, and you're going to have to pay for it for all my billionaire tech bro buddies. It's just not acceptable. And lastly, with regard to this, I'm not a put the brakes on everything. Humanity keeps going. It's the old Sonny and Cher song. The beat goes on, right? But why can't we do this in a way where we've got responsible leadership that cares about the people and what's in their best interest for the future, and not just a stopgap measure because we didn't create the right power generation in other places? Why can't we do that? Why can't we do that direction? Because right now, all these data centers, I only see them as a giant leech to the people of Ohio and the state.
That's what it seems like, for sure. It seems like it's a giant leech. We ain't getting any jobs, and they're not paying any property taxes, and or sales taxes, or anything. Hey, what's happening, Brian?
Yeah, Casey, I agree completely with you on the data centers. And just go on the record, I'm rooting for you all the way, Casey, on this. We need new leadership in the state of Ohio. There's just no question in my mind that if we continue, just electing the same type of officials, the state's not going to be first in anything. And the old joke about Ohio is we're first in aviation and 47th in everything else. So I think, Casey, you bring a fresh look at the state. We'll try to do our part by eliminating the property taxes, by getting the amendment on the ballot so people have a chance to vote. And as far as I'm concerned, it is more than just a dollar and cent issue. This property taxes, it's a freedom and liberty issue, and I'm trying to save freedom and liberty for all Ohioans, not only this generation but for future generations. So I'm really rooting for you, Casey, and if anything we can do, please let us know.
All right.
Yes, sir. Well, I hugely appreciate you saying that. You're right across the board. It frightens me to no end, the idea. It's like the World Economic Forum. They said you'll own nothing and like it. I don't like that. I'll fight to the death to not do it. But my God, are our children going to be able to afford another home? Are our seniors going to get booted out? And the other aspect to this, which is a whole nother facet relating to homes, private equity companies, corporations buying massive quantities of private homes. Private homes are for family. They're for people. They're normal, good people. But we're allowing corporations and private equity companies to buy massive amounts of them so they can artificially inflate the market to no end, where politicians don't say anything and people kind of think they're worth more money even though they're not. It's destroying the future, plain and simple. And I thank you for saying that relating to me. It was never my dream to be a politician. I'm sorry, but if things were going well, I would much rather be doing my nonprofit Genius Garage, building my watch company down here, my watch desk, doing prototypes and stuff, building cars, or even my Omega car, the 100-mile-a-gallon car you all may have seen on Tucker Carlson. But I'm here because what I saw, our choices with Vivek, of course, with Amy Acton, the Democrat, no thank you. I couldn't take it anymore, and my soul was burning. So here we go, guys.
Hey, quick question. Vivek's got about $30 million or so that he's going to be using for the campaign. I'm assuming he's going to be using most of that against Amy Acton if he gets elected in May. How is your funding going? How is your donations and all that? Because it does take money to win.
That's true. That's true. It does. It does indeed. Well, the first and foremost thing that's amazing is all the people. The absolute tidal wave of support that's come on fast is unbelievable. And I don't mean that as a political platitude. I mean, if you look on social media, we've been ratioing and obliterating Vivek and everybody associated with it. So the stage is set. They built, frankly, a house of cards, and people are revolted by the establishment and everything about it because they know it's just going to be more of the same. I mean, if we look at the DeWine years, the amount of fiscal spending, I mean, even let's say 2010 to 2025, and it's more than doubled what we're spending. But the population of Ohio has increased by 3%. A vote for Vivek is just a vote for more of the same establishment and the slow decline of every good thing in our life. So fundraising, the people effort has come. I have an unbelievable team already. Kim Georgeton, my lieutenant governor pick, she's fantastic, brings great knowledge, balance, and wisdom. So we're doing really well. Obviously, it takes some big money too. There's numbers of prominent people that own their own companies, businesses, and such that are coming on board. And frankly, Ohio and what's happening here, me being the America First candidate that first and foremost cares about the people of Ohio only, that's bringing national attention too. So I don't want to let the cat out of the bag with everything. But let's just say there's a lot of very well-heeled people out there that don't like the establishment. They don't like what they're seeing with the establishment's candidate over there, and they like what they're seeing with me. So we got a real shot at this. And just like it is when I build a race car to go to a racetrack, I say I didn't get out of the bed in the morning to finish second. Same goes true for this political race. I didn't get out of bed in the morning to finish second to Vivek.
Yeah, well, the one thing about elections, there is no second place. You either win it or you're done.
Either first or last, Ricky Bobby.
That's a good point. So based on what I'm seeing on social media, I think we should add about 2 hours to this program. We've got a lot of great comments. I'm torn. I'm going to try to strike a balance here between interjecting some questions that I'm seeing online. I'm personally monitoring Rumble and YouTube. If you're on one of those two platforms, keep them coming. I'll start at the top. I had about an hour-long conversation with Kim Georgeton a few days ago. I had a great conversation. I like her. She seems to have a very good head on her shoulders and good perspective. Just a quick comment. When you were talking about students and American students competing against H-1B visas, one thing to keep in mind is debt load. We're loading up students who are graduating in the U.S. with massive debt, and they're unable to compete with people who are coming in with lesser types of engineering, STEM types of degrees from other nations, and that automatically puts American competition at a disadvantage. So I wanted to interject that. A few questions. One is Stephanie Stock has been a regular guest on this program from Ohio Advocates for Medical Freedom. I'd like to get a read from you on your position on medical freedom. And then second, or actually equal on my list, is attacking CBDC, which stands for Centralized Banking Digital Currency, and efforts underway by Representative Jennifer Gross, also a regular guest on this program, to introduce some things to counter that, like transactional gold and silver. And that was actually one of the questions in the chat as well. So if we could start with those two.
Good things. A lot of things here. Actually, Stephanie, I just wrote her medical freedom across the board. Very much in favor of. We could speak for hours on the medical industry, pharma, et cetera. It's scary. I don't like what I'm seeing. In general, as I mentioned, even from property taxes and such, the power back to the people. I'm looking forward to connecting far more with Stephanie. And I'm going to leave it at that, because certainly some freedom there is across the board is important. Obviously, things we saw with the COVID lockdown, vaccines, just absurdities, absolute absurdities, where, as another note relating to that and COVID, policies being made by the government, but trying to make everybody think they're law and forcing around, it's just wrong. It's just so wrong, the things we're seeing. So I would say more on that later. I'm looking forward to connect. I'm thrilled with Kim Georgeton. It's just such a champion of families, of health, MAHA movement related things. And that's something that I'm so happy to bring along, because that's very important to me. The other thing you mentioned was regard to digital currency, and the digital world. Now he gets into things taking a step further, maybe adjacent, is also digital ID and such, golden circle. I don't like digital ID. That's a huge problem. It just is. Let me just leave it at that. I don't like digital ID. There's just too many horrific directions the government will take things with that. Digital currency. I will say this. I like things to be more than just a number on a computer screen. I like it when things are backed by something. Because when things are only ever just a number on a computer screen, that means they can be manipulated in one way, shape, or form by somebody that potentially doesn't have the people's best interest in mind.
Gotcha. Hey, let's go over to George. You have a question?
Yeah, I have a general problem with the consensus about the data centers. Again, I'm still trying to stop the 12 from blinking on my VCR, so I'm pretty much a Luddite. I'm not really into, this, that, and the other thing, and high tech and everything else. However, if someone buys property and the farmer makes out on a what he thinks is a good deal, and I set up a data center and I'm buying electricity from the utilities who are in the business of selling electricity. Sometimes they're, probably have a lot more capacity than what they're selling. And if a lot more electricity is being used up than what they could provide, their job as a utility or as a business is to increase their capacity to keep prices level and be able to supply what's needed. So it seems like when we're talking about these data farms and land and our water and our this and our that, we're using terms that are very collective that sort of obviate the concept of private property. And actually, and again, I'm against tax abatements if we have the current climate of real estate taxes, but tax abatements are good if long-term we plan to get rid of all the real estate taxes anyhow, and the tax abatement doesn't really mean anything. So those are my concerns. It's just we're discussing land and AI centers and data centers and everything sort of in a collectivist bubble, and we're not addressing growth. Yeah, utilities need to expand. They need to make our grid stronger and more resistant to being hacked and potential EMP and all these other things. They need more money, so they need more revenue. They need more sales, on and on and on. So I just don't like the way we're framing it in sort of a collectivist mode. That's my only comment.
I appreciate you saying that, actually. Thank you. With regard to that statement, I think the reason why we're looking at this in totality and everybody's so bothered by the data centers are they came in hard, fast, and there's a lot of them. And that's why that's deeply concerning to people. Your statement of, if anybody wants to buy farmland for a competitive rate in America, things like that, that's reasonable. But when things happen so hard and so fast and so big and effectively set up that are in effect taking advantage of people in the state, that's a bit of a problem. That's a bit of a problem for everybody. Having policy that allows you to look forward and build good electricity generation is vastly important. Obviously, nuclear. One of the things in the past that has been difficult from what I've seen is when you build a nuclear power plant, it's many more years for when you break even from some other things, oftentimes like coal, which, by the way, Ohio and Southeast Ohio has some of the best coal in the world around kind of going into Pennsylvania and such. So I don't want to forget about them because there's lots of great ways to utilize that. But, our leadership simply didn't have the foresight for what was coming with data centers and AI. Because right now, data centers and AI, it's all part of the same thing, which is the new arms race. When we had nuclear proliferation of arms in the past, that's basically what data centers and AI are. This is a whole nother industrial revolution, so to speak. And it's interesting, actually, in a way, and I'm getting a little parallel, a little off topic. Many parallels now to division and political class and strife and conservative losing jobs because of AI actually parallels a lot of things in the 1800s of Europe when industrialized revolution was coming in and craftsmanships and artists were going away. I know I'm getting way tangent, but I appreciate you saying that. But the reason we're talking about this in as a whole and people are so concerned is there's just so many of them that are bringing concerns and a net loss to Ohio. That's just not acceptable. And it's because of weak leadership with no foresight that sold us out.
All right. I got a couple things to say here. First of all, really appreciate you coming on. So we do have a lot of live viewers, okay? So this has been going over very well. Somebody made a $2 contribution. They said they wanted to know about human trafficking. So you can make a quick statement about that. But also, in addition to that, I got another text from someone who was saying that I got it from Jason. Okay, Jason Barnhart. And Jason wanted to know if you're going to have a debate with Ramaswamy or not. That's a good question. So, I don't know, some brief on human trafficking, and
Yes.
then do you have a debate coming up? How about that?
Well, I hope I have a debate. But you know how they play silly games. We'll talk about that. Human trafficking, horrific. It's absolutely horrific. My God. Not even to mention child trafficking. It's all in the same, but it's horrific. Ohio is at the crossroads of America. I-75, Michigan going all the way down to Florida, then 80-90. People don't want to admit it, but there's a heck of a lot of it going on here. It's bad. I got a question for you. We got a lot of ex-military. We got a lot of ex-special ops guys. It's really not that hard to call up and start putting together a team of ex-special ops guys, maybe that are dads, maybe that are bored, and create a special task force specifically to track and hunt them down. And yes, dear Washington, D.C., it's that easy. I'm not going to sweep that under the rug. Heck, my military buddies wouldn't let me if I got sidetracked. So it's just not acceptable. We're going to target them and hunt them down, period.
And in regards to the debate, that's always a tough one because both sides have to agree on it and stuff like that. Yeah. I know how it runs. I mean, I know politics somewhat. It's like if you're the one who if you're Ramaswamy and you feel that you're not a threat, you don't want to do a debate. It's only if the people are demanding it and he feels threatened that a debate will all automatically happen and stuff. So I guess we'll just have to.
Well, I got an opinion on that. You want to hear it?
Yep.
Honestly, Vivek, if he's smart, he shouldn't debate me because he'd be in big trouble. What we've seen from Vivek is, personally, I think he thinks a lot of himself. He is a very smart man. He's very polished with the way he speaks. He doesn't seem to be able to break script, and he's very proud of whatever it is that he's accomplished. Well, I'm a working class guy. Got a lot of military friends, got a lot of blue collar bodies, talked a lot of smack in a garage. And the thing that I've learned about arrogant nerds, they don't do well when somebody with blue collar direct wit, humor, and has some intelligence come back at him. I think he would get mad and not be able to take it, and he'd probably quit the debate stage in exactly the same way he quit X and Instagram, and then he'd cry and run away and say I'm racist or something. So he probably shouldn't debate me because I think he's going to lose.
All right, let's go to another topic real quick here if we could. And I see that John Pleshnik is in the waiting room. Hang on there, John, because we got a late start. Okay, we had some technical problems. We got a late start. All right, can we talk about the daycare fraud in Ohio?
Yes.
And let's talk about that then. And let me do this. Well, let me show you this.
Amazing. And as a parent, when we do come here, and I'm fully registered, then I use this.
This is
I put my phone number in, and then what do I do?
And then you take a picture and you sign your kids in and out.
Okay. In and out. Okay. So there's some places, some daycares that weren't doing the attendance.
What she's trying to do is she's saying, hey, how much does it cost to go to this daycare? And then how do you track attendance, okay?
Correctly, what does that mean? That they just forgot to sign somebody in or forgot to sign somebody out?
Possibly, but then even if you do forget to sign someone in, sign someone out, you can always backdate it as well.
Oh, okay. Yeah. All right.
That's an interesting comment right
there. I really appreciate
that girl behind that woman behind the desk had said. Now, that daycare center is not like your Somalians ones where there is nobody. That one had a lot of activity and everything. But she was there talking just to get some information about attendance. And they said, oh, you can just backdate it. You just backdate it if you want. So there's a lot of fraud going on in Ohio with these daycare centers, with the Somalians, with the non-Somalians, you name it, especially with the Somalians and stuff. All right. Let me get a thought on that from you, and then we'll go around the horn. What would you do if you were governor? How would you react to stuff like this? Let me tell you what Governor DeWine said. He said these YouTubers got to stay away from the daycare centers, and he's getting ticked off about it.
Yeah. Well, I think we're going to put a YouTuber in the governor's mansion, take care of some stuff. Tongue-in-cheek point, but, it's the YouTubers that are out fighting the fraud in Minnesota. It's them that go out and do it. And DeWine is saying stuff like, it's the price of doing business. Oh, my God. Talk about somebody who doesn't care and is out of touch.
No.
Oh, well, we have a place you can report fraud. Well, are you doing anything about it? Anyway, what we've seen in Minnesota is horrific. Originally, I heard like $9 billion. That alone, terrible beyond imagination. But I'm hearing it's more like high teens, 18, $19 billion wasted to God knows here to Somalians? For what? In the name of daycares? Now, I'm getting a little dramatic there, but my God. Now, the Somali population in Ohio is tremendous. So what we're going to see is very likely going to parallel that. And it very well likely may be of the same magnitude. I don't know, but it'd be silly to think the same stuff isn't potentially going on. So what would I do? Attack it. I take it personally. I take it professionally. Because my goodness gracious, this is our state. How many generations of family do I have to go back? Heck, I'm a third generation Ohio State Buckeye. My granddad went there up the GI Bill after World War II, darn near getting his butt shot off. So this place means a lot to me. And just the thought of literally wasting billions of dollars to Somali criminals when I've been fighting for the last 11 years of my life to build Genius Garage and help young engineers get jobs, that then politicians like Vivek come in and say that they're not smart enough, we need to import Indians from a country that can't even build a good sports car? No, I'm taking it personally. We're going to attack it. We're going to find it. We're going to get rid of it, period.
Hey, do you like blues music? Do you like blues music?
Millions spent, but classrooms bare. Where the children at?
Where the kids go?
Tell me, Mr. Governor, who's accountable for that? While they learning center, can't spell the name right. License near 100, but no kids inside. Millions paid out, doors shut tight. Nick Shirley walks in, brings it all to light.
Thank God. Woo! Thank God for the YouTubers. We wouldn't know there was any fraud out there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you hear what was coming out of the governor's office when they were talking about the fraud in the Somali community? Governor DeWine's office, I don't know if it was Governor DeWine directly, but his office said that's just the cost of doing business. And I find that really appalling that our executive branch would have that kind of attitude. And I'm calling out all of the elected representatives down there. They should be better stewards of the taxpayers' money. And with Casey and his team, they're going to address that. So thank you, Casey, for stepping up for the people of Ohio.
Well, my goodness, Brian, thank you. And thank you for everything you've been doing with regard to the taxes as well. I mean, that's putting the power back to the people so they have it tomorrow. They can keep their homes and keep it away from the government. To be perfectly honest, not but a few weeks ago in December when I announced for this, my wife and little one and I took the biggest leap of faith imaginable. This is incredibly dangerous, and it's very challenging. But frankly, I enjoy the challenge. Maybe I'm a little bit of a masochist, but I'd crawl through hell for a better tomorrow. And politics is pretty much that. But I just couldn't take it anymore. So I appreciate you saying that. I do have an amazing team. I'm so happy to have Kim Georgeson there. But everybody there is amazing, from people on policy that's helping me out. And truly, I am drinking from a fire hose right now with all the details. But I know we have the right people. We have the right values, the right real conservative values to make sure that Ohio will always be our home, and we put America first. So thank you.
Yeah. Can't do wrong by that. Hey, Jonathan.
All right, so I'm going to try to tie together three different concepts and in a meaningful way. When we're talking about repealing property taxes, on average, about 60% of that goes towards schools and education, and I use that term loosely. In general, it's known that Ohio schools have failed. It's a failed endeavor into government-run schools. We rank somewhere around 37th or 38th. I generally like to refer to Ohio schools as last place most expensive. We have examples in Ohio spending over $40,000 per year per student, and we're with dismal results. So when we're talking about repealing property taxes in some way, shape, or form, one of the first things for me is using that opportunity to reassess how we deploy funds. And then at a high level, we've got the Doge conversation that's just ripe for the picking. Not just education, but across the board. We've got things like Jobs Ohio, which just got that ridiculous contract extension in spite of, we're like 38th in job growth in Ohio, but the lottery money that goes toward it is just ridiculous. So financially, we've got all sorts of low-hanging fruit, and I'm wondering what your position is on Doge. I'm going to load the question by saying that typically on Ohio political news, I continue to advocate the position that any real Doge can't come from within government because they're conflicted. The people within government with their hand out can't be the very same people that we are relying upon to try to find waste, fraud, and abuse. We have some good people on the inside, like Representative Jennifer Gross, who bring information and advocate, but there's only so much one or two good guys can do on the inside of government. And the last piece of that is I want to get out on the table for our listening audience and for you, Mr. Putsch, the Academic Accountability Project. Ohio's Academic Accountability Project that was co-created by Omar Tarazi and myself in connection to Protect Ohio Children. It makes transparent what's happening in every school district in the state using state data. So I think there's not enough utilization of that, not enough conversation about how much we're spending and how to find better efficiency. So hopefully that makes sense. I've kind of conjoined three things, but they're interrelated. If we can drop expenses, and just to put a high-level sharp point on this, it wasn't long ago Ohio had an annual budget of about $67 billion, and lots of us thought that was outrageous. Well, it's now over $100 billion. We're not getting anything more for that, but it's just somehow miraculously through the wave of a magic wand or a magician's cape during COVID, somehow magically we went from 67 billion to over 110 billion or wherever we are now.
Hang on, Jonathan. Something happened with your mic, but go ahead, Casey. I think you got the gist of it. Go ahead.
Well, you know what he's saying there in regard to it is no, government's not going to doge themselves. I think I mentioned earlier on in this episode that the rule number one of government is always get more power, more money, and grow. Those are not in the best interest of the people, simply. So what we do, we force accountability. We force fiscal responsibility. And that's something you can do with axing the property tax on private homes. It forces that to happen. And that's also something that happens across the board. With regard to schools, you mentioned something else, the word transparency. The last time I checked, our government is supposed to be for the people and by the people. And if it's not transparent, is it? So I'm simply not okay with that. And that's another way that you can force accountability, fiscal responsibility. And the same thing happens in schools. You may have remembered I mentioned about having curriculums need to be understood by parents. What is actually being taught your students? And if parents have a problem with it, probably because there's something not good happening. So I really appreciate everything you said, and forgive me if you had a specific question, but that's it. With regard to our alignment and the team in doing it is doing things that force accountability, force fiscal responsibility, put the power back to the people so that the government is structured for them.
All right, very good. Okay, I'm gonna George, if you're out there, ask him maybe a roundup question, because we're gonna have to end it here with Casey, and we've got John Palashnik on deck. We got to get to John, but do you have a
my only question and thought is we're throwing around a lot of numbers: 18 billion, 20 billion, cut this, cut that. It would be nice to have accurate, 60% of real estate taxes, or 68 or 64 or 72. It would be nice to have concrete numbers, say taxes, and streamlining the state of Ohio. Again, the amount of waste, fraud, and abuse in the state of Ohio, without even looking at any accurate numbers, just looking at it theoretically and abstractly, we know that there's so much waste in government in Ohio.
I agree with you. You're exactly right on having those numbers for people, because the government's going to want to protect their money and not let people have power, so they'll use fear mongering, of course. Right. But as an example here, just in 2024, if I got this right, about 23.9 billion was collected in property taxes. 68% went to schools, which was deemed effectively unconstitutional, having probably largely come from there, the majority, which ended up being the approximately 16.3 billion. So the other 32% for those other details. But when you look at that, and the numbers of waste and fraud we're finding alone takes care of that. So yes, I agree with you. Having the numbers, having it laid out perfectly with a plan. That's why I'm so happy about the team and the policy team in doing that. Right now we're in the stage of just getting to everybody, so everybody knows who we are, what we stand for, the alternative we're offering, and moving forward with that. But genuinely, we're going to do it. And why are we going to do it? Because it's actually doable.
Right, and the concept, I think Brian mentioned that, or maybe you mentioned it, about seniors on fixed incomes and this and that. That really shouldn't be our base argument. Our base argument should be private property rights, because I have clients who have fixed income, and their fixed income is $25,000 a month. So fixed income as a concept, nice. As a concept is actually the wrong concept. It should be, as Leonard said, it's the fundamental ownership of property and the freedom that attaches to that concept, not so much the concept of fixed income.
Well, certainly, and thank you for bringing up that point. You're exactly right. When I think the fixed income, I would think of my grandparents, and shall we say a lot more middle of the bell curve. That's a lot more treacherous for people. I want them to lose their homes. But you're exactly right. Property rights. If you work your whole life to own your own home, and then suddenly the government can take it away because you're not paying your taxes, do you really own it? And that bothers me to no end, because the answer is basically no. So I just want to make sure that the people of Ohio forever will be able to own their own homes, because who belongs in homes? Families, not corporations, not private equity, not the doggone government taking it away. Because if we all let that happen, what future do we really have?
Right. Joe, may I mention one last thing for Casey? Casey, I ask you to take a look at what they call local government funds. I think what has happened over the years that it's not a revenue generation problem in the state of Ohio. It's a spending problem, but it is also what has happened. I think it was starting with Kasich. The state officials have kept the money in the state coffers instead of giving it back to the local government. So all of the revenue that they generate from the income tax, the sales tax, and the various other forms of taxation, they keep the money, and the state officials are spending it on whether they're donor class or the special interest groups, and they're not giving it back to the local governments. Therefore, they're saying to the local government, governments, you got to pay for your services through property taxes and or an income tax. So that's one area you may want to have your team take a look at, how that has changed over the years.
You're right, and I appreciate bringing that. There's a number of things of how the state is taking away power from local governments and such. One of which I'm knowing is the huge percent increase of the amount of support you have to get something on the ballot over the last number of years increased. Forgive me if I'm not mistaken, about 5 times. So consistently, probably through all human history, goes back to the state that every government just wants more power and wants to grow and get bigger and bigger. And that's just not helping people. When the state takes away power and makes it difficult for local municipalities, cities, etc., to be able to look after their own needs, well, how's that work out well for everybody in terms of blanket? But thank you for bringing that up.
Well, I got one text here from Stephanie Stock. We mentioned her earlier. So she said, get that survey back to her. I guess she wants to endorse you, but you got to fill it out.
Thank you, Stephanie. Thank you.
Get it back to her. All right.
Yes. Thank you.
Well, terrific. We really appreciate coming on tonight. Glad you can connect with us. We were looking forward to it. So thank you again. Good luck with it, Casey. And
I'm honored.
And thank you again. So God bless your efforts. Guys. Thank you.
It means a lot.
Thank you, Casey.
It means a lot.
Thank you very much.
I'm learning a lot and growing a lot, but we're here. We're fighting for the right reasons. We can do it. We can go all the way. We've got the right people. Kim Georgetown, awesome LG pick, but an incredible team with just good conservative values for the right reasons. So thank you for having me on.
All right. Thank you. All righty. Well, we've got the commish. Commish, I was gonna throw you in there, but I thought we would get to you directly, and I thought maybe you might have a question for Mr. Casey, but that's the way it goes. But John or George, did you have a question? No.
To John, no.
How about with Casey? I know he's gone, but any thoughts? Did you have a thought?
Well, I gave my thoughts. I thought on 3 major areas, so no, not at this time.
So let's let everybody know. Thanks everybody for watching tonight. We such a great audience tonight. Make sure to subscribe on all our platforms: Facebook, X, Rumble, YouTube. Make sure. Thank you for all the comments in the chats all over. Also the nice Rumble rant. We appreciate that. Make sure if you are on Rumble, down at the bottom in the chat, there are a little icon for a Rumble rant for a dollar signs. And then if you want to help with a gift of every month supporting us, click on that gift to support us. We really would appreciate that. Also on Facebook, if you go into chat over there, make sure to click on the star and you can send us stars. We would appreciate that. It does cost money to do this. It definitely does cost money, and we appreciate everybody with that support and everybody in the chat room. So thank you.
Yes, thanks again for everybody in the chat room. Now, there were 2 people that gave money out for monthly supports, and if I say this wrong, let me know, Kent. But R.H. Wagner, correct, gave support, a monthly support, and Jansky gave monthly support.
Gifts.
And we really appreciate that. If people could give us $5 a month or something, or whatever you want to give, that's nice. That's really wonderful. And then those Rumble rants. If you do a Rumble rant, we'll definitely put your question right to the top of the list and ask it. And that's another way that you can help contribute to this format, this station, keep it going. Because, it does cost money. A lot more money than people realize, because Spotted Fawn, like the interview, I only use Rumble, Lisa. Yeah. We've had problems with YouTube because they kick us off after a while. And then we have to get a new name. So YouTube, we've always had problems with. All right, thanks again. Thanks again for everybody out there. All right, John, you're on the other side of the table this time. You're one of the guests, and you have some information about the schools raising taxes again, right?
Yes, indeed. We're seeing a disturbing new trend in Lake County and across Ohio. As taxpayers have said, the property taxes are too damn high. The very misguided response says, well, let's raise another tax. And so we're seeing school districts attempt in some areas to start raising to historic levels school district income taxes. Now, this is a disastrously bad idea. We need to start with the proposition that only 2 states in the US of A have municipal income taxes in a majority of their cities, their villages. Only 2 states, Ohio and Pennsylvania. And that alone has made Ohio a lot less competitive compared to Kentucky, compared to West Virginia, compared to our competitor states. I don't need to tell you, having another tax return, another tax that has to be paid, is not something that a business likes to see when they're deciding where to move. So just the fact that we already start behind with the municipal income tax is bad enough, but school districts are saying, hey, if cities can do it, let's do it too. Let's pass income taxes. And while most of them, I think, are going to be voted down, any that pass are disastrous for their communities, and it really misses the point. People are not saying, I hate this one tax, but I'd be happy to pay gobs of money in another. People are saying we are capped out, we are taxed out, no more. They're saying we want taxes cut. And the problem is, no matter how many times you tell government, I want lower taxes, all they hear is, so can I tax you another way? No. 2 words, folks. 2 words. Cut spending.
All right, let's go to some of these guys. Brian.
Yeah, I'm pleased to tell everybody we are going to be at the Willoughby Eastlake School District tomorrow night. I think it starts at 6 o'clock. We are going to live stream for Ohio Political News the Willoughby Eastlake School Board meeting. So we look forward to that. And we're also going to, for Ohio Political News, we're going to live stream Lake County Treasurer Michael Zern. He's going to be speaking at the Willowick Library on Thursday. So we'll be live streaming that also for Ohio Political News. And I really appreciate Commissioner Plechnik and his learned advice and comments on the property taxes. There's no one that's stepped up anywhere in the state of Ohio as John has done. So thank you very much, Commissioner.
Thank you, Brian. To let our listeners, to let our viewers know what's going on, Willoughby Eastlake has proposed at various public meetings a 2.5% income tax increase. I've heard through the grapevine that they may be looking at 2.25 or 2.25%, but either way, it would more than double the local income tax rate in the school district. And it's just shocking to me that a place of education, a school where children are supposed to learn the fundamentals, doesn't know about the tax death spiral, doesn't understand Econ 101 or Tax Policy 101, that if you raise taxes substantially higher than competing jurisdictions, taxpayers vote with their feet and leave. And as a result, to raise the same amount of money, what do you have to do? You need to raise taxes even higher, and then even more taxpayers leave, and you have to raise taxes higher, and more taxpayers leave. That's why we call it a tax death spiral, because it's a negative feedback loop that gets worse and worse and worse. And we've seen it before in a lot of stellar communities in Ohio that raised their taxes and saw their most successful people, their best businesses leave. Euclid is the perfect example. Now, I love Euclid. Polka Hall of Fame is there. I don't want to put the community down, but the reality is they had some bad politicians who voted to raise taxes, put in a school district income tax, and guess what? The higher income people left. They tried to sell their houses all at once. Property values plummeted. People started to rent because they couldn't sell their home for a feasible amount of money. And you saw a population of homeowners leave and be replaced mostly by tenants and rentmen, lower income folks. And that frankly means that you have to raise taxes once again because you need a higher rate on those lower income people to raise the same amount of money. And then even they want to leave. And so once again, we have a death spiral. If you raise taxes substantially higher than the competition, the taxpayers vote with their feet and leave. And the fact that we have school board members, superintendents, treasurers that don't understand this absolute basic rule, 2 + 2 is 4, raise taxes higher than the competitor jurisdictions, people leave. If you don't know basic math, you should not be in education. That's a fact.
I agree with you. I agrees with you. If you don't know that 2 and 2 is 5, you get out of the public school.
Yeah, I've got some comments on that. I'm going to make this as super sweet and simple as humanly possible. In the earlier segment with Casey Putsch, I mentioned the Academic Accountability Project. It was that fast. Well, Commissioner Plechnik was speaking, I brought up a web page, went to the reports, and I pulled data for Willoughby Eastlake. So let's glance at Willoughby Eastlake. But before I share the numbers with you, just know everybody knows the real estate adage. It's location, location, location. And everybody out there, virtually 100% of all people, will tell you it's the school district that drives property value. Well, let's look at Willoughby Eastlake. They've got a budget. Most recent recorded budget was just under $123 million. They're spending in most recent budget $18,500 per student. And remember, that's actually not the complete picture. There's more money on top of that, but that's the basic report. And for that, they're reporting just over 60% proficiency on those softened academic proficiency standards that Casey Putsch mentioned. So that's a pretty bleak picture. That is a high-priced school district with huge tax revenue coming in already that disappears into something that apparently isn't education. That impacts property value. It's really as simple as that.
I gotta tell you, it's so disappointing as a resident of the Willoughby Eastlake Public School District that instead of looking for ways to do more with less, to actually care about our kids, to have a goal of increasing proficiency scores every year, the only goal seems to be how can I diversify my revenue stream? How can I bring in more money? Once again, the goal of government is to grow and to spend money. It's not to actually do the work of educating our kids. And while I sincerely hope that the school board members do the right thing on Monday and do not vote to advance this proposal, because if it goes to the May ballot, it will not only fail, we have a personal mission to make sure that everyone who supported such a disastrous proposal is forced out of civilized society, because we have to draw a hard red line. We're not going to abolish property taxes just to raise income taxes oppressively or anything else. The way we're going to cut property taxes, the way we're going to abolish them, 2 words: cut spending. And if government don't like it, I don't care, nor do any taxpayers. We are fed up, we are tapped out, we are overtaxed, and we're not paying anymore. That is the BL bottom line. But I got a call from the treasurer of the Willoughby Eastlake Public School District because I had convinced one of the school board members, shout out to Denise Verdi, thank you for your leadership. She agreed she is voting no on this disastrous proposal. Well, apparently she had mentioned to the treasurer, she talked to me, couldn't vote for this massive tax increase. He calls me up, what's your concern? What's your concern? And I said to him, my concern is if you raise taxes this drastic amount, people are going to move. I mean, we have an effective 2% rate in Willoughby right now, biggest city in the district where I live. You add 2.5% to it, that's 4.5% versus 0% in the townships like Concord, Leroy, Paynesville Township, all beautiful communities. Maybe 2% isn't enough of a difference that people are going to leave, although we have seen a migration over the last 20 years from the west side cities to the townships. So I think there has been an impact from that tax difference. You push it to 4.5% differential, it is going to be the end of the west side of the county. And the treasurer says, well, how do you know that? I said, I don't know. Maybe I studied tax law and behavioral economics. What about you? He said, well, what are we supposed to do? How are we supposed to cut spending? You keep saying cut spending. Why don't you come in and redo the budget for us? And I said, are you offering me your resignation and your job? Because if you quit and you pay me I'll rewrite your budget, sure. But where things stand now, I'm a taxpayer. I'm paying your salary, and it is literally your job as treasurer of Willoughby East Lake Public Schools to write the budget. So no, I'm not going to come in and do your job for you. I'm going to tell you as your constituent and your boss that I expect you to cut the budget by at least 5% every year, with at least a 5% increase in proficiency scores every year. And if I were on school board, I would fire you the first year you failed in either metric, because the days of spending more and more and more as enrollment drops lower and lower and lower are over. The taxpayers are not telling you, raise some other tax and cut property taxes. They're saying, we're done paying you more money. You already have many times more than you need. $120 million, $18,500 per student. For the love of God, there should be a statewide maximum. I can't imagine more than $10,000 per student being reasonable. If you're going to pay $18,000, $20,000, $30,000, let's put that money in a 401k for these kids, and they'll be millionaires by 40.
Yeah.
Commissioner Putschnick, I do have a question.
$20,000 a kid, can you imagine that for 13 years, I guess, kindergarten through senior, how much it's cost us to educate one kid? That's complete and total insanity. George, you out there? It's so hard to tell because I can't see you.
Yeah, I think Brian was trying to ask a question.
Brian had a point. Yeah, Brian, go ahead.
Go ahead, Brian.
Commissioner Pletchik, would you mind reminding the viewers that about the $8.8 million that Willoughby East Lake School got because of the recent revaluation without a vote of the taxpayers, and what kind of reaction did you get?
That's an excellent point, because the treasurer raised this issue when he was belaboring me about why I would interfere as they're trying to pass this historic tax increase. And he said, you commissioners, you doubled the homestead exemption. You doubled the owner occupancy credit. That cut $2 million out of our budget. What do you expect us to do? And I said, well, you received an unvoted $8 million plus increase. So, I did go to a decent school, and $8 million minus $2 million means you have $6 million more than when you started. So I don't know that you need to find room to cut your budget. You've got $6 million extra. And he said, well, we can debate and we can argue as much as we want. I said, no. We're not here to debate or argue. This is public record, and this is math. You got an $8.8 million unvoted increase from the revaluation, oppressing every homeowner in the district. And we gave back just $2 million with all the power the state legislature gave us to low-income seniors making $40,000 or less as a household, and to homeowners. So we gave back less than a fourth of the massive increase that you received without a vote of the people. That's not my opinion. This is not a debate. That's a fact. And it scares me that the treasurer of the Willoughby East Lake Public Schools can't do 8 minus 2 equals 6. That's not quite, it's a little harder than 2 plus 2 equals 4, but not much.
Brian, you got anything else you want to say?
No, that's great, Commissioner. Appreciate it very much.
George, got any last comment?
Yeah, what really bothers me is that when I study the levies every May and November on the election, it's usually there's a hard 30% that will just about vote no on everything, which is great. There's a hard 30%, which is sort of the government class, the net tax receivers, the teachers, the nurses, the police, fire, generally, they're that 30%. Then there's 40% in the middle that are so easily bamboozled and swayed, because if you look at the number of levies passing, even this last election, after the large valuation increases, it's pathetic. Our fellow citizens are pathetic. I don't know what the hell's the matter with them. Maybe their brains are too fried by watching too much damn sports. I don't know or pornography or drinking beer or a combination. It's like, what's the matter with our fellow citizens? So that's all I can say.
George, I had this conversation with a statewide elected official who will go nameless. And he said, John, how can you support the property tax abolition movement if all these levies are passing. We saw 80 some percent, almost 80% of levies pass. I said, number one, there's already a sea change because renewal levies by and large passed, but new levies asking for more by and large failed. And I'll tell you, 10, 15 years ago, everything passed. So the fact that new levies are being overwhelmingly rejected is a sea change, and it shows that the anti-tax sentiment has built to a new high. That's number one. I said, number two, you saw the turnout in this last election, right? 20%. And a little over half the people voted for these levies. So we're talking about 11% of Ohio. And on top of that, we only got to 11% because you got government employees campaigning for the levies for their government, spending government dollars to do it. So the only way we're going to have a fair fight, I told this fine gentleman, is if we have a government department that spends $100 million a year fighting levies. So at least we have government money against government money. Now, I know how ridiculous that is, but the point is it's ridiculous that government money and government employees are campaigning for levies to increase the size of government. That should be illegal.
Yeah, absolutely.
Everything. These schools are just like a piranha or something. They're just going to keep devouring and eating and eating and eating. We have to starve them to death already. They're just this big.
If you put a hard $10,000 cap, you said you cannot. I'll be fair, inflation adjusted. But you put a hard $10,000 cap. You cannot spend more than $10,000 a student, and you say you cannot spend more than 2% on administration. It's got to be primarily on teachers and students. You can spend 2% on administration. I'm being real generous here. If you had those restrictions, no more than $10,000 per child, 2% on administration, you would see a drastic improvement in public education. Forget the savings for a moment. We got the crocodile tears. What about the children? Vote for the children. The children are being trapped in failing public schools, and their futures are being destroyed. None of these people care about the children. We could pass a state law today that closed any public school that had less than a 90% proficiency. And with the money we're spending for that public school, we could send half the kids to Harvard. We could literally save these kids today if we gave a damn. But it's clear that we don't. Because if we did, we would not ask, we would not measure, we would mandate real benchmarks for proficiency in reading, writing, and arithmetic. And if a school fails, a school fails. Let me tell you something. Cleveland State University College of Law, I'm proud to be a professor there. But like every ABA accredited law school in the country, you have 3 years where you don't have a 75% ultimate bar pass rate. You know what happens? You are closed. Not 30 years, not 20 years, not a decade. You have 3 years where you don't have the right pass rate and you're done. Somehow, law schools rise to that challenge, or they don't. They succeed or they fail, and people ultimately go to the law schools that succeed. We need to have no more than 3 years for a public school to be educating our kids, because if you give them 10, 20, 30 years, you're failing generations of students. Yeah. How can we give a school 30 years of opportunity to do right by our students? We're failing generations.
We gotcha. Well, a lot of people like to hear you rant and rave. But the thing is, competition. Competition is what would solve all this. Give the equal amount of money to the private schools that you give to the public school. So if you want to make it $10,000 a kid, okay, then you can take that money per kid and you go to a private school, you can go to public school, you go wherever you want. But don't give the public school more than the private school. That might be one way.
And Joe, the crazy thing today is you can't even choose the public school that your child goes to. If you live in Kirtland, they have to go to Kirtland. If you live in Mentor, they have to go to Mentor. Now, those are two pretty decent school districts by statewide standards. But if your kid's trapped in an inner city school with virtually no proficiency, that is dangerous by comparison, your kid's stuck there. It is absurd that as taxpayers, we can't say, I'll send my kid to any school I want. And if there's an additional cost, if the parent's willing to drive the kid, I don't care if they're driving them to Columbus. At the end of the day, it is insane that taxpayers can't choose the school their kid goes to. But today, you can't even choose the public school your child goes to. You're trapped in a failing school. So once again, I don't want the crocodile tears. I never want to hear from a politician again, what about the children? Because he cared about the children, you would mandate proficiency levels or close the school. Yeah. You would mandate that the child can choose the school they go to. If you don't do those things, don't tell me you care about the children, because you frankly do not.
Well, they don't care about the kids. It's the money. It's all about the money, man. Show me the money.
Yep. Hey, Joe, can I interject something? It's not related. It looked to me like you're getting ready to wind down, and I'm looking at the clock. I want to get some great news out to the state of Ohio. If you're not already aware, the very large county of Butler in southern Ohio got together. The Republican Party interviewed and ran through the paces. They ran through their vetting process. The two Republican prospects for our Secretary of State. That is a very, very important role this year, and it's a contested race. We have two people running for it, Republican Sprague and Republican Marcel Sturbich. Well, the result of that is now out, and Butler County, with over 70% voted to endorse Marcel Sturbich. So it's official now. I think they're the third largest county of the 88 in Ohio, has endorsed Marcel Sturbich for Secretary of State. That's a groundbreaking, earth-moving splash. And there's some great comments on social media. If you're not following people like Ron Koop posted on it, and all sorts of other people. Mark Pukita has a really good post on that as well, talking about the importance of having a true candidate vetting process. And it sounds to me like Butler County has one. Marcel Sturbich officially now endorsed by Butler County.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah, we've had him on the podcast a lot. And he knows his stuff for Secretary of State. So he would be a good one. He would be a really good one. All right. Hey, I want to thank everybody in the chat. Thank all the guys. Yeah, go ahead, Kent. Go ahead.
Also, really quick, thanks to, we didn't have Yvette, but we also had some stars sent from Heather Hill's Lieutenant Governor Stewart. So we appreciate that.
Oh, yeah,
Facebook.
Thank you, Stuart.
Thank you, Stu, for being in the chat tonight.
Yeah.
So
all right.
Heather Hill showed up too.
All right, thank you guys. Appreciate it. It was a great night. We had a nice turnout. A lot of people watching tonight. Thank you very much. God bless. See you later.
Millions spent, but classrooms dead. Where the children at?